In this video about improving your skills in critical thinking and debating, I'm focusing on how you think up arguments to support your point of view. If you want to be the first to know when I upload, then click subscribe and hit the bell. Usually if you're writing an essay or doing a speech, you want to give 3 overall arguments that support your point of view. But what do you do if you're just staring at a blank piece of paper and can't think of what to say? I'm going to give you 5 methods that I use when I'm stuck that I hope you'll find helpful. The first method is something I call the logical journey. At each point where you get stuck, you say, well, why do I think that's true? For example, if you were writing an essay about why capital punishment is bad, I might say, well, why do I think that? Well, because I think it's unfair to kill wrongly convicted people. Why is that? Well, because the justice system can sometimes declare people guilty when they're actually innocent. Why is that? Well, because there's no perfect system. There would always be some wrongful convictions. And once you've exhausted doing that, you can say, well, why else do I think this? That gives you a way to think up arguments quickly. The second method I use is something called the expanding circle. You think about who's going to be most affected, and they're in the middle. And then you start thinking about, well, who else, and then who else, and then who else, until you've got more and more arguments about how it might benefit more people. So if I was making the argument why the government should make payments to carers who are caring for people in an unpaid capacity, I might say, how is this going to be good for carers? Then I might say, well, how is it going to be good for the people that they're caring for? What about the taxpayers? What about the benefits to wider society? And what about the impacts on the healthcare system? When you think of each of these things, you can brainstorm reasons why it might affect that person in a way that's useful to your overall argument. The third method that I use is breaking the issue down into sub-issues. So if you've got a point of view or a debate that you're having, like, we think we should ban alcohol sales across the board, you might want to split that down into different sub-issues, like, well, is this going to be practical? Is this going to create a black market? And what would the health impact be, especially on people with alcohol abuse problems or alcoholism? The fourth method that I use is just using a list of the different categories of argument. You might think an economic argument is best, or that it's useful to look at the ethics of a situation, or what's going to have the most benefit to the most number of people, as in utilitarianism, or you might want to advance a legal argument. A final category is looking at the impact on equality or human rights. If one of these categories jumps out to you, then pick that to base your idea around. And finally, there might be situations where you want to advance a particularly novel or interesting argument. In debating, these are called extension arguments. A really useful way to think of making them is to think about approaching the issue from a particular ideological perspective. So if we go back to our idea of the government paying unpaid carers, we might want to come at that from a feminist perspective, or a Marxist perspective, or an alt-right perspective. Simply just picking an ideological perspective gives you ways into an issue that are new, and you can think of countless other classic perspectives that you might want to apply to a particular situation. Once you've got your main claims, you can start fleshing them out by adding reasons why you think those claims are true and why they're important to your overall discussion. And I talk about that a little bit more in this video here. I'll see you in the next video.